Hi everyone, Tony from Hack the Movies here, and today we're going to talk about Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and why it's actually great. Shut up! Yes, it is.
Talking about tapes.
If Nightmare 2 is homoerotic, what is Nightmare 6?
Thank you to Helix for sponsoring this episode. I know what you're probably thinking. How am I able to sleep easily after reviewing all the Nightmare and Elm Street movies over the last year? Well, I sleep soundly thanks to Helix. All you have to do is go to their website and take the Helix sleep quiz to find the best match for you. I selected my body type and what kind of sleeper I am, and I ended up getting the Midnight Lux mattress. This mattress is so comfortable. I can't stress enough. This is the best sleep I've gotten in years. There's no nightmares on my street. When I lay on this bed, I drift into dreamland and I get the best sleep I've gotten in years. It was fast and easy, and they delivered right to my door. Free shipping if you're in the US. The mattress comes rolled up and it's super easy to set up. Let's see how easy it is. Welcome to Nap City. Oh, gee. Oh, I have a new bed. Unlike other brands, Helix mattresses do not contain fiberglass, which could be harmful to your health. You get a 100-day sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Financing and payment plans are also available. Visit helixsleep.com/hackthemovies to get 20% off your Helix mattress plus 2 free pillows during their Labor Day sale. Running now for a limited time. So sleep tight and don't let the dream demons bite. Oh my God, who are you? Properly introduce yourself. Properly introduce yourself right now.
I have no idea how to do that, but I am Cayley. I do Once Over with Cayley movie reviews, and I also am Lucy Tightbox on WATP.
WATP, is that Who Are These Podcasts?
It sure is.
Oh, they're so great. I've done a couple videos with them, and they like to review my friends' shows. You're a dick, Carl. Anyway, hello, Cayley. How are you?
Hi, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm talking about Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
I know. What an exciting day.
It's a great day. And it turns out you also like the movie, which is very rare.
I think we might be the only two people in the world that like this movie.
We're the only two.
Yeah.
I like director Rachel Talalay.
Yeah, Tank Girl.
Yes, which I've also reviewed on this channel.
Yeah.
She should have had a way bigger career. I mean, she does. She's huge in TV. She's a huge TV director. But this movie not being received well, and then them butchering Tank Girl.
Yeah.
Tank Girl is such a fun movie that you kind of overlook all the flaws, but the studio butchered the hell out of that film.
They really did. I feel like she got a little bit butchered here too, though.
Well, we'll get into that because I don't know to what extent. Not as bad as Tank Girl. Tank Girl has subplots missing.
It's true.
They had to resort to cartoons for stuff they couldn't even film.
Yeah. My impression is, though, that she did not actually direct some portion of this movie. So she got sick during the filming of Freddy's Dead.
Okay.
And so there was a portion of it that she actually was not the director for.
Well, we learned in Nightmare 4, go back and watch that, they pitched the film to the guy who did Friday 13th Part 6, which was my favorite.
Yep.
And when he said, okay, I want complete creative control, and they said, we already started filming, and he went, what? He's like, there's no what? He's like, how are you already filming? Like, oh, we already started filming the effects. You take care of everything else. Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me that you could probably just sit out of a Nightmare movie and be like, okay, you're doing the effects. Cool. I'm going to take a week off.
Sounds great.
Yeah. But she was involved with the series since the beginning. She was one of the producers. Same thing with Jack Shoulder. He did some work on the first one, directed the second one. And then I guess they decided, New Line, the house that Freddy built, they were like, okay, we're kind of done with this. Yeah. Dream Child wasn't that great. Dream Child was pretty weak. So it seemed like a good time to end it, except it wasn't, because people were like, where's Freddy versus Jason?
Which needed to happen.
Where's Freddy versus Jason? Which is odd, because they got Jason, New Line, and then they killed him.
Yep.
And then they killed Freddy. And obviously the whole thing was they were going to meet in hell. But then it took way too long for Freddy versus Jason to come out.
Way too long. Worth the wait, but way too long.
Worth the wait, yes. So yeah, she took the reins on this. Let me see here. There were multiple scripts pitched, including one by Peter Jackson. Did you hear about that one?
I did. Can you imagine?
That one is weird because it's like Freddy isn't strong anymore.
But
And
it's Peter Jackson.
it is Peter Jackson. This
So-
isn't like classy Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
This is like midway Pete. This is like your Dead Alive and
Meet
stuff.
the Feebles.
This is like your Frighteners Peter
Yeah.
Jackson.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it could have
yeah,
been
that's-
really cool. It
yep.
could have been really cool. But yeah, his script like involves stuff where like the kids go into the dream world just to bully Freddy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how you make a movie out of that. That's a cool scene, but I don't know how you make a movie out of that.
I think it would have been cool.
Yes, and it was written by Michael DeLuca, who is like a pretty successful producer. He produced a ton of films. But yes, this seemed like a good time to put Freddy on hold. The mania was dying down with the fifth film. I think the TV show had run its course, which they just took off Tubi. Freddy's Nightmares.
Oh, no, they did?
Yeah.
I was literally about to start watching that because I saw that it was on Tubi.
You waited too long.
Dang it all. Usually I
waited-
check all the leaving soon stuff.
I finally got to watch it last year. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
This should have been 10 seasons of this.
Ah.
But yeah, let's get into this. Well, actually, before we get into the film, when did you first see this?
I first saw this. I was trying to remember that actually.
Yeah.
So I was probably maybe like 13 or 14. It was right after I had started getting into horror. And for some reason, I had always been terrified. Nightmare was the series that I was like, this is the one that's going to scare me to death.
Everyone has that. For me, it was it took me a while to see the Chucky movies because
Yeah.
the covers scared
Yeah.
me. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh, what
I'm
the hell was
fine,
that?
yeah. Yeah, so I had waited a really long time to watch the entire Nightmare series, and then one day I just went out and got all of them. There was a little video store right by me, and
Yeah.
I went there, and I was like, I would like to rent all of these videos. May I
Yeah.
please do that today? And so I watched them all back to back, and I like fell in love
Yeah.
for the
think
most part.
I think I have to see. I have to watch my first episode again and see what I said. But I think I had already seen the first film. But this is one of the earliest sequels I saw,
Yeah.
and I loved it from the get go. I'm like, this is great. It's funny, but it's also scary. And at that point, I hadn't seen like 3, 4, and 5, so I had nothing to relate it to. Maybe that colors my viewing a little bit. So you watched them all in a row.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you still ended up loving it.
I still loved it.
That's pretty
I think
impressive.
I really like the idea that Freddy kind of gets goofier and goofier. And
Yes, as long as it's actually funny, because that was the problem with the fifth one.
Absolutely.
The fifth one, I said in the review, like, ironically, Freddy's the worst part because like the visuals are on point.
Yeah.
The story's like okay, and then Freddy comes in with his one-liners, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
That was a big bang.
Just a heads up, that rack full of box sets. At any point today, those might just fall off the wall. They fell off the
Cool.
wall last night.
I can't wait.
I need to get new shelves.
I see that.
Because those pick away at the slat wall and they just fall off occasionally.
Awesome.
Last night, after I set everything up, I sat down to get some work done. And I hear, whoosh. I'm like, great, awesome. Anyway, the story's haunted, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, so I fell in love with the movie. And, I watched all the other sequels. And yeah, I always say, I know 3 is the fan favorite. Obviously, the first one I think is the best.
Yep.
I kind of separate New Nightmare as like not really a sequel.
But yeah, it's not canon.
Yeah, it's more of like a spin-off.
Yeah.
But out of like the proper sequels, like 2 and then this are my favorite.
I completely agree with
Which
that.
are the ones people usually don't like. Oh no, people finally come around on 2.
People like
after
2
many
now.
years.
After Scream Queen came out, people
Yeah.
finally get 2. 2 is genius for its own reasons.
Yes.
I don't necessarily think for me that one fits into the series as well as this one does.
Yeah.
So what I always kind of say is, 1, 3, 5 kind of follow each other. 2 and 4 are kind of in their own little worlds. But I think this does a good job of wrapping things up.
Well, the TV show
Yeah.
establishes a multiverse.
Dang it all.
Real
I'll
quick-
never know.
Real quick. So the pilot episode is like how he became Freddy Krueger.
Okay.
And it doesn't jive with this, but this movie wasn't out yet.
Okay.
But there were a lot of like inconsistencies. It's like, well, where's the sheriff from the movie? Why didn't this happen? Toby Hooper actually directed this pilot episode.
I knew that.
And so the whole time I'm just like, where does this show fit continuity wise? Not that it has to, because it was more of like a Twilight Zone, but
Yeah.
Freddy was the host. But there's one episode where there's a high school reunion and Freddy is haunting the members of his high school class. And then usually it's 2 stories that kind of interconnect, sometimes very loosely. So there's the high school reunion story, but in the beginning, there's a guy who's like writing scripts and he's hearing stories about this Freddy Krueger guy, and he's writing these scripts, and then Freddy Krueger is killing everyone, but like the one guy who was nice to Freddy in high school gets spared, and he steals the guy's script, and then at the end, Freddy's holding the script for Nightmare on Elm Street. He's like, and then the rest is history. I'm like, okay, so all of these movies are movies inside the TV universe.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's a multiverse, I guess.
Yeah.
Freddy did it first, I guess.
That makes sense.
I guess Michael Myers also has a multiverse because they're separate timelines.
Yep.
But yeah, let's jump into this.
Cool.
So like the previous films, it starts with a quote about dreams. Yep. This one's by Nietzsche. I didn't write it down.
It's long.
But then I like that it's long because immediately afterwards it's welcome to prime time, bitch.
Welcome to prime time, bitch. That is my favorite Freddy line.
I like that they toned down the bitches in this one. They went a little overboard with the bitches in the last one. It's like, okay, guys, it's not.
We get it, yeah.
It's not funny when he does it all the time, except for the little handwritten note he left on the refrigerator. That one I thought was fine. So this movie is 10 years in the future, and it finally establishes Springwood in Ohio.
Yes.
Which I was shocked to find out it was in Ohio, because when you watch the first film, it's clearly Los Angeles.
Many a palm tree.
Someone left a comment. They're like, so there's a lot of palm trees in Ohio. I'm like,
no.
I'm in PA. You probably.
Where?
I doubt there are that many. Okay. I'm gonna live in a similar temperate zone. Okay.
There are no palm trees in Ohio.
I'm sure there's one asshole who grows them, and they're probably a lot to manage. But yes, Springwood, Ohio. All the kids are dead, apparently. Yes. I don't know who's giving us this presentation at the beginning. Maybe it's the government.
It's like a computer screen. It's like a little like old school, things are appearing on a computer screen, which makes no sense. Again, who is showing
I guess it's the government. Yeah. But yeah, so all the kids are dead. And all the parents, instead of just moving out of the town, why don't they just move out of the town?
I have no idea. There are so many questions.
I do the same thing with It.
Yeah.
It's like the parents are always are ashamed of this part of like these kids get sacrificed every 30 years and they're ashamed of it. I'm just like, why don't they move?
Yeah. So instead of moving, they just go into a psychosis.
Yeah. They all just go insane. Yeah. Poor Roseanne had to pretend to be insane.
I know. Something new for her.
Poor Roseanne. Anyway, yeah, we find out that there's one kid left.
Yep.
And I think maybe there was an earlier script that established that this was Jacob from the previous film, the kid. Yes. But I don't think that's the case in this version. No. I mean, it would make sense if it is.
I don't think anything necessarily says that it isn't.
Yes.
But I think at some point they kind of veer into this is another character.
Yeah, yeah. But for whatever reason, he's the last kid on Elm Street.
Yep.
And Freddy's like, well, I need some new kids. I love this whole opening. Like this, the whole dream within a dream stuff is like, for me, it's perfected in this.
I love it. One of my criticisms of some of the previous installments is that you're in a dream. Make it be wacky.
Yeah.
And this opening sequence, we start out on an airplane.
Or just scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One or the other. I mean, it's got to be something because you're in a dream. You can be imaginative. You can be crazy. Things don't have to make sense.
Yeah, no.
And this opening sequence makes no sense, and it's beautiful.
I know. Freddy really is just fucking with the guy. Yeah. But yeah, we see a little girl that's like, you're going to help him because you're the last. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know what that means. I love that. He just leans over. I love that the water the water is seeping through the airplane window, which is a bad sign. But I like when he asked the girl, he's like, I get nervous. She's like, don't be a pussy.
Oh my God. That is like one of the best lines in this movie.
Yeah.
Like so good.
And then they all get sucked out. Yeah, they all get sucked out. Beautiful matte shot of him falling. And then we do the dream within a dream where he wakes up in bed. But it turns out his house is in the air. And then our first picture of Freddy Krueger is him as the Wicked Witch.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too.
It's so genius. That Wizard of Oz sequence is, again, it sets you up for this movie. You already know that you're going into goofiness. That this is going to be wild, it's going to be odd, and it's going to be great.
And again, she really embraced the comedic stuff. Yeah. Whereas the other films, they're like, okay, we're gonna button everything with a joke. It's like, well, why don't we make the whole thing funny if we're gonna really go for it? Yep. But yeah, I remember being as a kid because I'd seen Wizard of Oz. I'm like, I've never seen Wizard of Oz like parodied in a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, again, it was one of those things where I'm like, I love this film. This is great.
I also really like, is it in 4 that Freddy does the Jaws thing?
Yeah, before he does the Jaws thing.
But I like the idea of like, okay, we're acknowledging that we're in the real world where these movies exist. And I think there's something really unique about that.
Yeah, we see that he goes to the spooky Freddy house. I like that he falls down a hill for like 10 minutes like Hot Rod.
Yeah.
It just goes on and
it's
on
long.
and on and on. Again, it's really cool dream stuff because, like, you know, sometimes dreams they like repeat.
Yeah.
So I like that. And then we get our Robert Shea cameo.
Of
he
course,
cameos in a
we
lot
have
of these.
to.
He's like the bus driver,
Yeah.
the ticket for the
The
bus.
ticket taker.
And yeah, Freddy shows up at a bus, knocks him out of Springwood. He makes
Into
him
the real world.
into the real world. He hits his head on a rock and gets amnesia. But I like that it shows Freddy can't leave Springwood.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if was ever really established. Like,
No.
before, it just seemed like he just liked being in Springwood, but now it's like, oh no, he can't leave.
He's stuck.
Why can't he leave?
Who knows?
It remains to be
important.
seen. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where you're just like, when you figure out how he got these powers and stuff, like, well, did they let him know about like the limitations? So yeah, the kid goes to like a shelter. The cops pick him up and they're like, we don't know who he is. Drop him off at the shelter. Yeah. And there we meet Breckenmeyer,
Heck yeah.
a young Breckenmeyer as Spencer.
His first role, I think.
Really?
I believe that this was his first role.
Okay. What was the thing that really made him take off?
Road Trip? Not Road
Was
Trip.
he done something before Road Trip? Road Trip is when I started taking note of who he was.
I think he was, but now I can't think of it.
Yeah.
I feel like Road Trip is when he...
Yeah, Road
That
Trip.
was like-
We're just going to say Road Trip was the big one,
Yeah.
okay? Road Trip was the big one. God, I love Road Trip. I was
I
real
do
into
too.
Tom Green's comedy
Oh,
as a teenager. I was
too.
too big of a Tom Green fan.
Me too. Freddy Got Fingered. That movie, I will always love that movie.
I love that movie, but I just love the whole show and public embarrassment stuff. I took
Yeah.
that. Tom Green helped me get over some of my anxiety issues I had as a teenager. I'm like, well, if I just act like an asshole in public, people will think it's funny. If I just, review movies on the internet like an asshole, they all hate their dads or parents. But also, he makes pipe bombs, and people are just like, well, another pipe bomb. I'm like, that's the most what you should send that kid to jail.
Silly Spencer.
I mean, I think the Second Amendment should include pipe bombs personally, but if you're running a shelter, it'd be like, oh no, this is super illegal. Get your pipe bomb out. But I like that they're like, well, I guess we'll put it, this is set up for later. Like, we'll put it in the armory. The cops never pick up these weapons.
Yeah.
Because if I know cops, they love to not confiscate weapons. Never. You're like, hey, I got some cool weapons that you can confiscate. The cops are like, we'll get to it later.
Yeah, we don't want those.
So yeah, that was bizarre. And then we meet the head counselor, Maggie, played by Lisa Zane, who is Billy Zane's sister. And this is another plea to Billy Zane. Please come on the show and talk about the Phantom with me. That's another one that I'm like the only fan of. Billy Zane, I love you. Your character did nothing wrong in Titanic. I don't know if you ever saw our Titanic review.
Yeah, I did.
I think he saved Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life. That's who I think the little girl was. I don't know if the age matches, but Billy Zane, come on the show. Lisa Zane, if you want, I'm okay. So she's like the head counselor. She's having issues too. She has recurring dreams, but she's not too concerned with it at the moment. And then we meet Tracy, who likes to do karate.
She rules at karate.
And then Carlos is deaf. And it's kind of implied his parents did it to him, which is pretty messed up.
Yeah, there is a scene later in the movie that really suggests that his mother is the reason that he is deaf, and woof.
Yeah, but this is continuing the Dream Warriors trope. Like, these are the kids, and these are their things that will tie to their
Demise.
their nightmares later on. And then Tracy just feels like an update of the punk girl from 3, who really dropped the ball in her moment of glory. She's like, I'm going to take you on, Freddy. Drugs. It's a little bit of a letdown. And then Yaphet Kotto's there.
Oh, I love him.
He's great.
His 70s work is amazing. Everything
It's
he
good.
did in the 70s.
I just really love Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's an Alien.
Yeah.
And he's in this. He's in the best entries of both those franchises.
Did you see Bone
No.
that he did? Oh, man,
No, I
you
didn't
gotta
see that one.
That's a weird one.
He's a
but
James
it's-
Bond villain. He's
Yeah,
the one
he is.
who got inflated and
Yep.
blew up, turned into a horrible effect. But he's like a hippie doctor who's real into dreams.
Yeah.
But then he says, like, I only have 23 minutes a week with these kids. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of them, and it seems like they all live there.
It's really, so I have a hard time. One of the things that I am struggling with, and maybe I missed something, but I don't understand. So it's 10 years later, right? We have John Doe.
I don't know what it's 10 years
Later
since, like from the fifth one, from like when you're in the theater watching it. Like what I don't know what the timeline was. Yeah.
So the timeline makes no sense to me, but also Maggie's character, Lisa Zane's character, doesn't make sense to me because she's supposed to be a counselor.
Yeah.
She looks like she's exactly the same age as John Doe, the original character who just got brought there.
I don't think she is because I looked up her age for something later. She just ages gracefully.
She's beautiful.
Why are you trying to shame her?
I'm not trying to shame her. I just want to understand why she is an adult and he is a child.
But yeah, I think John Doe we're supposed to imply is like 15 or something. Which again, there's a misdirect later that doesn't work because they show us the dates, but we'll get into that. However, we should mention there is a work print version of this, and I have it. As of this recording, I have not watched it. I do know of a few scenes, and I'll bring up one toward the end. But yeah, later this week, I will probably have a work print review for Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and see if it's better. Apparently not a lot of gore got cut out of this. I think because she had been with the series for so long, she knew what would
work.
Yeah, she was like, okay, the MPA will be fine with this. They'll be fine with that. They won't be fine with that. Whereas the previous guys were like, we're going to make it all bloody and gory. And like, oh, they're chopping down all our stuff. He has a poster of dream demons, which I want to get that painting. That
It's
painting's
really
as shit.
cool.
Yeah, that thing's cool as hell. It's like these snake dream demons. And apparently they're like, he's just like, yeah, they're evil spirits that roam the world looking for the most evil person to give magical powers to so he can kill people in their dreams. I'm like, that's a very specific demon.
Those demons have a purpose, and
there's 3 of them?
Yeah.
You need 3 demons to pull off that thing?
I mean, it's a complex procedure, I feel.
And I'm like, oh, wow, I'm glad they found Freddy. I'm like, wait, so this has happened before?
Yeah.
How did they get passed on to Freddy? What the hell?
Yeah.
A lot of questions here with the dream demons. But yeah, it's mostly just to establish later on when they go into Freddy's origin a little bit. John Doe makes it to the shelter, and he wants to stay awake, but he doesn't know why. He just feels like he's going to die. He's just like, do you have any Coke? And then he does the whole like, I meant
the soda.
And of course he said that because there's a Dare sticker behind him. Remember Dare?
I do.
Did you have that in your school?
I did.
Yeah, we had it in our
Oh
school
yeah,
too.
I passed with flying colors. It was great.
Those programs didn't work.
No. I used to watch people wearing Dare shirts doing drugs.
Yeah. My favorite thing is, though, like, a lot of people pointed out that, like, a lot of kids probably wouldn't have known about a lot of the... If anything, it just told kids how to get drugs.
Yeah. I was like, oh, interesting. What a fun fact I've learned here. That's how you do drugs. Neat.
And it's like, yeah, and it's really bad. It's like... It seems like it's a lot of fun.
All these people seem like they're having a great time.
If anything, it was probably just like, well, I'm not going to do heroin, but I am going to light up a J.
Yeah.
They showed us what was so bad about drugs, and honestly, the marijuana one, in my experience, marijuana just makes some people really annoying.
I completely agree with that.
When it's like their whole personality.
It's their only personality.
That was the worst part in college. Like, I couldn't, like, I'm bad. I tried smoking in college, and it didn't work.
Oh, I've never smoked. I swear to God, I'm allergic to THC. Makes me feel sick. Cannot do it. Not for me.
Well, famously, I couldn't do it until I tried edibles, and then famously at the one dick show, I took 100 milligrams. But when I do the proper milligram dosage, it's a fun time. But yeah, in college, I tried smoking. I'm like, I'm dizzy. Blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole Dare thing, it was just like, man, that really, it's still going.
Yeah.
I was shocked it still exists after everything we know
It
now.
still exists?
Yeah.
That's like a thing that they do to kids still?
I looked up Wikipedia. I saw Dare and it said something to present. So it's still around. I hope they modified their pitch.
I'm really excited about that. Can we get Dare shirts? I feel like I need one.
I don't think Dare's going to sponsor the show.
Oh, man.
I don't know. Maybe they'll use my fucking weed brownie thing, embarrassment story. That's really how you get the kids.
Oh, totally.
The kids aren't afraid of death.
No.
Teens aren't afraid of death. It's too foreign to them.
You're going to accidentally piss your pants.
Yes.
You're going to do
pee yourself.
dumb shit.
You're going to be wearing a Rocky IV tracksuit and look like an asshole, and everyone's going to make fun of you for it. That'll get a kid to not try drugs.
Absolutely.
They're like, well, I don't want everyone to make fun of me.
Yeah.
A 300-pound guy who looks like you but worse is going to pretend he's better than you because you embarrass yourself on stage. Fuck you, Vito. Anyway, we got to get back to this. Maggie sees a newspaper clipping that the kid just had.
Yes. And he has amnesia.
And
so
he has amnesia,
no
so he
idea.
doesn't know why he has it. And it's about a Kruger woman who's either missing or dead.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a water tower. And Maggie's like, that's the water tower from my dream.
What?
And I like her little weird dream sequence, which again isn't really Freddy doing it.
Yeah.
But I like that the mom like comes out of the newspaper and is like,
I want help.
I liked that lifting from the
Yeah.
newspaper. I thought that was a really cool effect.
the effects in the last few films were great, but I feel like the last two, they got a little carried away. With a few exceptions, the effects in these are pretty good.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah. So it's revealed that Maggie was the little girl who was on the plane. And then her dream ends abruptly as she's about to see something horrifying happening. She's playing with her dad, whose face you don't see. And then when you're watching this, you're like, that's Freddy Krueger. And then you just got to wait for it to happen.
Yeah. It's a long wait also, as I recall.
Yes. And then at the same time, John is dreaming. And he's sleepwalking throughout the whole thing, kind of like the guy did in the part 3.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that weird thing where he's going up the stairs, and they blue screen him walking in the air, and I'm like, I don't like that's weird. It's not a great effect, but also it doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, but where did he hit the ceiling? Where did he go?
I like that effect though, because again, I think that's kind of the weird dream thing. You know, I like the idea of leaning into this cannot happen in real life, and here's a really weird, just total throwaway thing that could never happen.
Yeah, well, I think him in the air is in the real world.
Yeah.
But I'm just like,
Oh, yeah,
where is
that's
he
right.
going? Like, he's just going to hit the ceiling. It doesn't make any sense. It's
All
a cool
right.
visual. I'll give you it's a cool visual.
You might be right about this one.
Yeah.
You've convinced me otherwise. I was wrong.
But so again, as funny as this movie is, it's also creepy. It balances. I like when he goes into the padded room and he sees himself going, "Wake me up! I'm your memory." That seems like really scary to me.
I completely agree.
It used to freak me out. Again, like as a kid, watching the first time, I would go from really freaked out and then to like laughing really hard. And it was a nice little wave right there. Maggie and John just decided to go on a road trip. They're like, well, we're going to Springwood.
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to help us out.
I think she drags him there, and he's like, I don't want to go there. It's too spooky.
Yeah, and he's like, no, we're going. Now
Yeah.
get in the creepy van that looks like every serial killer van ever.
Why do they have that van? That's the van that the shelter has.
Yeah.
Why is that the van that they have chosen to keep for these poor shelter kids? Like,
I don't know, but we found out earlier that Spencer, Carlos, and Tracy wanted to leave, and their plan was to sneak out in the van, and it didn't work because they didn't realize the van was going to be used. So it turns out they're in the van.
stowaways.
Yes. They have like an almost accident when they're going into Springwood. Now, this part has cracked me up forever. I don't know if you notice it, but the way Maggie says telephone, did you pick up on that?
No. How does she say telephone?
Kind of like how you say documentary.
Oh,
No,
no.
she. If you watch it again, now you're never gonna not notice it.
People have pointed out to me that I say documentary.
No. Well, yeah, that. But
Telephone?
when you watch this movie again,
Okay.
as you will hundreds of times more,
Of
like I
course.
will.
Yeah.
She goes.
Okay, the first thing we have to do is find a telephone.
She said that's so fucking weird, and it's bothered me since I was a kid. I'm like, why? That's not how you say that word.
That's really weird.
No one goes pick up the telephone. It's so bizarre. I know it's a nitpick. I'm sorry, Miss Rachel Talalay. Okay, but you really should have done another take of that. You should have told Lisa Zane to get her shit together. All right, I apologize to Lisa. I feel like I'm coming down to Lisa
I was
Zane.
just gonna say, yeah, you're being so mean to her. You told her you don't care if she's on your channel or not. Whatever.
Look, I like this movie, but I would have recast it. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about Lisa Zane on this?
I think she did okay. I think it's a little flat.
Yeah, I think you needed someone else in this role.
It's a little flat.
Someone in this role.
I mean, it's an important role to the series, you know.
Yeah. And look. She's got big shoes to fill because her brother is Billy Zane, who really should be on the show to talk about The Phantom with me and also Twin Peaks Season 2. Please, Billy Zane, come to the show. I was just joking about your sister. She's great. We love her. We love her. Clap, clap, clap. We love her. We love her. So yeah, they go into town and there's a fair happening, but there's no kids because the parents are so insane that they're like, we're just gonna have a fair and pretend that we have kids.
They want kids.
They want kids.
Roseanne and Tom Arnold.
It's Roseanne and Tom Arnold when they were married to each other.
And what a happy time for everybody.
Is it weird seeing fat Roseanne now, knowing what she looks like in real life?
No.
It's gotten to the point where I'm now more used to thinner Roseanne than fat Roseanne.
She's still fat in my head. I'm so sorry. I know people got the body image issues and they try so hard to lose the weight, but God damn it, she's still fat Roseanne in my head.
But yeah, she's like, I'm not gonna let anyone get. And then Tom Arnold's like, get away from those kids.
We can't have the kids back in Springwood because if the kids are here, then he will come.
I want my children back. You know they bring him.
Why don't they just leave?
I don't know.
Also, Freddy can go into adult streams.
Yeah.
So why doesn't he just pick? Oh, it's so stupid.
They're in a psychosis.
They made sure to put Roseanne on the back.
Oh my God, no, they did not.
Yeah, they put they put Alice Cooper on the back too. Cameos galore.
I don't think he's credited either, so that's a very surprising.
I don't think. Here we go with
surprise.
Yaphet Kotto, TV's Homicide and Alien, and cameos by Roseanne, Tom Arnold, Alice Cooper, and another one that we'll be talking about briefly, or shortly. This chapter is in the world's most terrifying dream saga is a fantastic voyage. That was from the Washington Post.
Ooh.
Anyway, so yeah, they're like, wow, this place is fucked. John and Maggie are like, we're gonna go to the school. You guys get out of here. Find a way out of here. I like that when they get in the van, they're just stuck in a loop.
Yeah.
I
love that.
This part reminds me of Nightmare 4 when they're in that time loop. But yeah, it's cool. Like, there's no like weird effects trick. It's just simple edits. Like, oh, we're back.
Yeah. So they're circling around and they keep seeing the statue of a little kid.
Yeah.
Which is the only kid in Springwood right now because it's a statue, so it's okay. Presumably it's safe.
Yes.
So they keep circling around and they keep ending back up at the statue, and no matter what is happening, they keep ending up back there. What a cool! That's like mind-boggling, especially when you're young and you see this. You're like, that's my fear, that I'm lost.
That you're just stuck in a loop over and over and over again. And like I said, it kind of calls back to 4 where they're in that every time they leave the diner and then they're like, wait, we've done this before. I do love when Carlos looks at the map and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Again, a simple enough scare. It's not too over the top. It doesn't require an insane effect, but it's very effective. And I think the map says, fuck you. Or
it says, you're fucked.
You're fucked, which leads to a really funny line. Where the map says we're fucked. And I'm like, all right, that's a good joke there.
That's a great joke. I think that might be one of my more favorite scenes in the movie. Like, just like for the psychological, we're freaking out and things are starting to build and things are escalating. Yeah. And you also get the comedy.
Yes. And I kind of like this idea where like Freddy is so powerful now from the souls of the kids that he can kind of manipulate the real world to a degree. Like, I don't know if they're dreaming or if they're just, like, a little tired or something, but it seems like he can, like, affect the real world a little bit. Obviously, he can't come out and make snake demons, but he can make you drive in circles, I guess. There's a teacher in a school giving a lecture on the 1400s. That doesn't really make sense.
Freddy 101.
Freddy 101. That's right. Freddy 101. I think there's even, like, a chalk painting of Freddy. Yeah, and he's basically telling the stories, like, that's when they took his child. And you're like, okay, so Freddy had a kid. And in our minds, we're like, well, obviously it's the woman.
Yeah. We already know that because we're not idiots.
Yes, we already know that. But
the movie is leading us to believe that it is John Doe.
Or maybe it's making us try to decide which one in our heads. They say that he lost his kid in 1966. And John has this whole thing where he's like, it's got to be me. And it's like, you were not born in 1966. She was... I mean, she was technically born in 1962. I looked up her age, so she's playing younger.
She really does look beautiful.
She really does. Those Zanes, they have great genes.
Wonderful genes.
I mean, not so much the hair gene. Billy lost that pretty early on, but I think he made up for it, all right? He had beautiful wigs, and I love his bald head. And we'll talk about that one day when we talk about the Phantom. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's trying to do this fake out, and that's like my one issue with the film is that they gave us the date, so it immediately eliminates John as his kid.
Yeah.
It also makes things a little like, it's like, wow, so what is the timeline of events here?
I don't understand the timeline.
Because I feel like she should have been like Yeah, it's a little weird because I'm like, where do the other films fit in this?
It doesn't make sense.
No,
And
okay.
I think you brought up the best point, which is what is the 10 years?
Yes.
10 years from what? It's 10 years in the future.
Yeah.
10 years from the first one, from the,
Yeah, it's a little bizarre. I don't know. Well, then again, like Nightmare 2, all that shit happens, and then Nightmare 3 and 4, no one ever mentions it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, a lot of people die.
Yeah.
The kids decide they're going to go into a house. And it's like this nice, beautiful looking house. They're like, this place is empty. We're going to hang out here. And I love the effect. Like, as soon as they shut the door, the blood runs down. And then it cuts to a miniature pretty seamlessly for me.
Yeah.
And it basically morphs into I always call it the Freddy house. I know it's not his house. It's just the house that he likes.
Yeah.
But it turns into the classic Freddy house, which
His
I thought was
favorite-
awesome.
Yeah, his favorite house on Elm Street.
Yes. He finally answers why in Freddy versus Jason, but we'll get to that film at another time. Carlos ends up having a dream about his mom. And apparently she's the one that made him deaf because he didn't listen, so she shoved Q-tips into his ears.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
That scene makes my toes curl.
Yeah, I don't like that. I know I'm more of a eye stabbing fear guy, but yeah, the ear, I'm just like, because I used to have a lot of ear issues as a kid.
Yeah.
Like really bad. They had to like do a bunch of surgeries on them, and it doesn't bother me anymore, but when I watch this movie, I'm like, no, that reminds me of every goddamn earache I've ever had.
Yep.
Pretty gross.
It's disgusting.
He goes deaf.
Yep.
And I love the audio here. You only hear a few things.
I love the audio.
This whole sequence is great.
It's so cool.
Like when people like shit on this, I'm like, yeah, but this whole dream here is like phenomenal. I know there's some goofy, it's followed by a goofy one, but like this is great. The audio's awesome. How you don't hear anything. I love when Freddy's like screaming behind him.
And again, you get a little bit of goofiness
Yeah.
in this kill because of that.
Yeah.
It's still brutal. It's still terrifying because in your head, you're like, well, what if I couldn't hear that somebody was threatening me?
Actually, speaking of that, did you ever see Hush, the Michael Flanagan Hush?
I did.
We talked about that in our underrated Final Girls episode. That one plays into that whole thing where she just can't hear the
Absolutely.
killer.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah. So he eventually gives him his hearing back with a spider hearing aid.
Yeah.
But now it works too well, which again, now it's the reverse where like the dripping of the water sounds like a loud ass drum. And I like he can literally hear a pin drop. And again, this part is it's funny, but also pretty brutal because he catches the pin and then you just see Freddy drop 1,000,000 pins. And it's like, oh, god damn.
It's cruelty.
It's really cruel.
We know that Freddy is evil.
Yeah.
But we never really see him being cruel. And I think there is a difference.
This is the most like torture-y he's ever gotten for me, I think.
I think so too.
But yeah, the ultimate sound is the nails on a chalkboard, which again, very clever with Freddy. I'm like, okay, yeah, because nails on a chalkboard, he has the knives. It works so well. I'm shocked they didn't do it earlier.
I completely agree.
Because there's so many scenes of Freddy in schools. Why didn't they do this earlier? Really, really awesome death. Like his head just blows up. It just incinerates.
It's beautiful.
And then again, I don't mind the button on the scene with a nice hearing from you, Carlos. I'm like, okay, that's good. Everything works here. Why don't people like this?
I think the only reason that people might not like it as much as some of the other deaths in the previous films is because you don't really get to know Carlos quite as well as you get to know some other characters.
Yeah.
So maybe you don't care as much if he dies.
We talked about that a little bit before we shot, but honestly, I like him more than anyone from 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think he's a great character. I think it's really interesting. I love that
and
scene.
again, I'll check the work print. He might have had more backstory that got trimmed down. Not that we needed a lot. Because I think he talks early. He's like, last time I spoke up, like my hearing went or whatever. So I'm like, okay, there were enough clues to pick up without being spelled out. But no, it's just a horrifying sequence no matter who it was. But yeah, I do actually one thing I think might hurt this film, the Freddy makeup's not the best. And I think that might really bother people.
In that scene in particular, because you get a lot of close-ups of his face.
Yeah.
And it is...
I don't know what it was, because he looked really good in the first 3. I guess 4 he looks okay. But yeah, 5, there was a noticeable drop. And then this one, there's a noticeable drop in like the the face. They kind of went backwards a little bit. And yeah, I think maybe that. It might be a thing where he just wanted more comfortable makeup, so they had to like there must have been a trade-off. I don't know. But I feel like people bring up the makeup in this, and I feel like that's one of the things I'll like agree with them. Like, yeah, he doesn't look his best.
Yeah.
The next movie, he looks better than he's ever
Amazing.
looked. With New Nightmare, I know even Wes Craven apparently was just like, if I could do it again, I would make him look more normal because he redesigned him too much. Which, by the way, before we get back in this, people are probably wondering, Tony, are you gonna do New Nightmare? No, I did it on another channel. Go to Dragon Curve. I said everything I need to say about New Nightmare. I'll probably do a commentary track, but there will not be a New Nightmare episode, just like there wasn't one for part 2, but there was a commentary track. All right, back to this movie. Spencer gets high.
He sure does.
He really does.
He loves the marijuana.
He wants to smoke it like a cigarette. But yeah, he's like tripping out. The TV is coming to life. Oh, actually, before the TV comes to life, cameo.
The best cameo ever. Johnny Depp
coming back. He came back.
And he does the Rachel Cook. Rachel Cook did those old commercials?
Yeah, Rachel Lee Cook.
Rachel Lee Cook, yeah. He does the
This is your brain.
This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah! What are you on?
Which brings us right back to Dare. And I feel like if Dare is still a thing, those are the commercials that they should be doing. Yeah. I was terrified from those commercials when I was a kid.
Well, that's the weird thing, that they have all this Dare stuff, and they make a point to say that, like, drugs are bad. But then they have this scene here that's making fun of a drug PSA. I'm like, all right, well, your message is a little conflict. Because one of my other issues with this is they are trying to put an anti-drug message in, like a very forced one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but then you made fun of like the most popular PSA, so you kind of defeated your own point there.
And also Spencer looks like he's having a great time. So.
Yeah, it also looks like Spencer's he's listening to Inagata Devita, which is the second horror movie I've seen that song in. The original Manhunter, the first Red Dragon movie, had it at the end. We have a whole review on that, but that's when that movie was like, hey, here's the ending from the book. Fuck it, it's a shootout. And you know what? Put some Iron Butterfly in there. It's like, what the fuck? None of this happened. So yeah, he gets sucked into the TV. And then John and Tracy are like, we got to go into the TV. We got to go into the dream to find him. By the way, he's in a video game. It's very 90s. This is like Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
I am sure there are lots of video game references that I do not get that are happening, but they're great.
Yeah, well, it's just, it's not referencing any specific game. I think he was playing like a Tiger Electronic game earlier on. I think he might have been playing Mortal Kombat. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is that era of like, 16-bit side-scrolling stuff, and they established earlier that he's into video games. So it's cool to see him in the game. And I like that Freddy is actually playing the video game. I'm like, all right, this is very 90s. As much as Nightmare 4 was very 80s, this is very 90s.
It was great. I love it. He controls Spencer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just genius.
It was so good. Spencer's like beating up his dad, so it ties back to his asshole dad. But yeah, I like that John's just like, I need to go into the dream. Knock me out. And she does. And then a second, which again, another cool effect where he falls into the table and disappears.
So cool.
Yeah, but I like that she shows up a second later. She's like, I learned how to meditate. That's what I was trying to tell you. What John decided to do ends up getting him killed later on. Spoiler.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, they go to save Spencer. They grab Freddy's controller, but he has the power glove. Have you ever played with the Nintendo Power Glove?
No, I have seen other people play with them, but I have not played with one.
It's a piece of shit.
I have heard that.
So bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. But that being said, I really do want a Freddy Power Glove. That would be a lot of fun to play with. I do like these like great graphics. I'm like, wow, Freddy got real into video games since we last saw him. I guess he killed all the kids and he had all their games.
He was bored. What else are you gonna do?
Do you think he possesses people to play the video games?
Yes.
And he's in a bunch of video games. He's in
is.
Dead by Daylight, Mortal Kombat 9, but it's the remake Freddy, which fucking sucks. But anyway, Spencer ends up dying.
I love also, okay, so the Spencer scene is a little wacky.
Yes.
It's a little wacky. So
and
he's
I feel like people gravitate toward this scene to shit on it, but I'm like, no, it makes sense in context.
I kind of feel like it's like the precursor to like Stephen Chow films. Like I kind of feel like it's like Kung Fu Hustle, except it didn't work quite as well as what Kung Fu Hustle did. Yeah. But like it's just him kind of bopping around and bouncing around
he's
and
bouncing.
And
he's like hitting the ceiling.
It's a cartoon
and again,
sequence.
the humor's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I think the girl is like, this isn't real. He's like, I'm sure there's a rational explanation for this. With like his head going into the ceiling. But But yeah, he falls down a portal to hell, I guess.
He sure does.
And I like that, like, Maggie is just kind of losing it at this point.
Yeah.
Did we skipped over a whole thing where they go to like a house with a school mom or something, and she recognizes Maggie as one of her kids.
Oh yeah, we
skipped over that whole thing. Sorry about
I forgot
that.
about that.
And she's like, "What about the Kruger kid?" She's like, "I can't talk about it legally. I'm not allowed to." And then she pretends she's with kids. So Maggie is clearly piecing together what's happening. John's on his own little adventure, but yeah,
John still thinks that he is Freddy's kid in that
Yes.
scene. Like
Yes.
he's like, but she knew who I was, and that means I must be Freddy's kid.
yeah. But I like that she goes like, "Yeah, she also knew 50 other imaginary people.
Yeah.
You're not special, John." Yeah, but I like that she kind of snaps out of it. She's like, "I couldn't do anything. Like, what are we gonna do?" We're like, "We're gonna pick him the fuck up and get out of here." So they're trying to drive him out of town. And then John gets sucked up into the sky. Well, he's in a dream loop again, which is cool. How do you feel about him saying he's not going to leave the bed?
I don't know. It's so. I am not a huge fan. This is probably one of my bigger criticisms of the film. Is just this in general. It gets cool after a couple of minutes, but I like almost tune out during this whole him getting sucked up and like.
Yeah, because they kind of already did it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I do like where he's just like, "No, I know what's going to happen, so I'm not getting out of this bed." And like the bed lights on fire, and he's like,
Oh, yeah.
he's like, "I hate this house. Like everything's on fire." But yeah, he eventually goes in the sky, and then he questions Freddy.
Yep.
And I like Freddy's being such an asshole. He's like, "Oh, do you think I'm your dad?" Wrong. But Freddy tells him, "It's like, yeah, you brought her right to me, and I'm getting out of here.
Yep.
Goodbye." And then we have like a whole Hanna-Barbera thing or Looney Tunes where Freddy's like moving the bed of spikes, and he's like, again, a kid who was watching all those cartoons and then
It's perfect.
seeing Freddy Krueger do it, but as a horrible act of murder. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. He does like the lean over on the bed of spikes after he pushes it. He's like nice and relaxed. All right, I'm just waiting for the disaster to happen.
The funny thing is, like, who is he performing for?
For
'Cause
us, dang it.
he's always mugging to the camera. I'm like, who's watching him? The Dream Demons? Like,
Maybe they
are we supposed to see like the snake demons off screen? He's like, they're like, "Good job, Fred." But I do like when he lands on the spikes, and the next thing you know, he's like bleeding.
That's a great effect.
Reminds me of like the scene from like The Matrix later on, where like they all get shot, and they're like coughing up blood. But yeah, that is a great effect. But he's like, "Oh shit, I was wrong. Sorry." And then Freddy teleports into his daughter's head.
Yep.
Could he have done that at any time?
It really seems like it.
Did he have to wait till she was at the border?
No.
Yeah.
Could have saved us some time.
I would have just jumped in her head as soon as she entered into town. I
Yeah.
don't know what the whole thing was. But anyway, he's in her head. It's kind of cool when they go back, no one remembers the kids. They're like, "Who the hell is Spencer? Who's this? I don't know who anyone is."
Yep.
I'm not sure why they don't remember them.
No, there's no explanation. I was going to try to make an explanation, but there is not one.
Maybe because they died in Springwood and that erases the memory of everyone else. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. So
No.
do the parents forget they exist? Do they look around there? Is Spencer's dad looking at pictures of him and his kid going, "Who the hell's that guy?" Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, not everybody has amnesia in this movie, so
Yeah, well, yeah, Yaphet is like, "No, I remember them because
Yeah.
I'm like a dream guy."
yeah,
Okay.
he knows everything.
We'll go along with it, buddy. He's like, "Yeah, I'm too smart to forget those kids." Okay, now this scene, Maggie looks for her her mom, who was not established in this version of the film. I don't think so. But apparently in the work cut, there is a scene that establishes her mom early on, her adopted mom. So this scene makes a little more sense. Because when I watch it, every time I watch it, I'm like, it always catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, I didn't know she still had an adopted mom. I thought maybe she was an orphan or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, she figures it out and she's just like, "Who am I?" And the mom's like, "They didn't tell me who you were."
Yeah.
Which I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
You
That's
don't really
normal.
you don't really want people to know, like, "Hey, whose father was who was the parents of this kid?" And it's like a mass murder. And you're like, no one.
Yeah. Nobody wants to find that out.
Okay, so Maggie finally starts to remember who her dad is. And she sees the rest of the dream, and she's in like the little girl outfit, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
That it's a good transition where it's like the little girl walks and then she's in the outfit.
There's no jump rope scene in this movie.
No. The whatchamacallit, the rhyme is sprinkled throughout.
Yes.
Like there's little references to the rhyme.
There's no jump rope scene in this movie. That's the first one that does not have a...
Huh. I'd have to maybe check 5 again and see if it was in that. You're right. It's weird that they wouldn't have that in there.
I'm just realizing that...
Also, what was up with the sheep in the first one?
Oh, God.
Oh, wait. Someone actually pointed out that might be a reference to counting sheep.
Oh.
And I'm like, all right, well, it's a long way to travel for that explanation. I don't know if that works. But yes, she sees her mom being choked by Freddy, which Freddy just doing it out in the open in broad daylight. I'm like, I don't know, man. I probably would have brought her inside.
A little bit more covert.
I like that it showed that Freddy had different gloves.
Yeah.
I'm like, where was all this shit? He has like a whole glove section here. So I'm guessing he was already killing kids, but he stopped to have a family, which reminds me of like the BTK killer. I don't know if he really stopped, but I think he slowed down. But then the mom found it out because he has a murder room.
Yes.
Don't have a murder room? It seems like a real easy thing to do.
I mean, if you want people to find out, then you have a murder room. Otherwise, avoid it.
Yeah. But he doesn't want people to find out. And
he's not very smart, maybe.
Well, his dad was 100 maniacs. So you're right, who were insane. So yeah, he got a point. He's not the smartest.
Yeah.
Maggie finds out that she's really Catherine, the daughter. And Freddy's like, they took you away from me. And then I killed all their kids. And he should have been like, and also I was killing kids before that. But you know, it was personal after that one time. And I love this whole scene where she's like, you're not in Springwood anymore. And he goes out in front of the thing. The Elm Street pops. I was like, every town has an Elm Street, which is true.
That is the whole point of it being on Elm Street.
Yes, which is pretty cool. I like how they tied back to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we get to see Tracy dreaming about her abusive dad.
Yes.
Again, they really went in the whole
a lot of daddy issues.
Daddy issues. Carlos had mommy issues. But yeah, the whole parent issue is the theme of this film. And I think it works pretty well.
I do too.
I like how each character has to deal with like an asshole parent of theirs. And also the main character has to deal with her asshole parent.
And it also kind of brings into the point of the series, which is that the parents don't believe the kids in almost every single installment. So it's like the idea of being frustrated with your parents at this point makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, the dad, I like that Tracy like beats the shit out of her dad. She's like, you know, this is my dream. Because we've heard throughout the film that she's going through therapy. She's learning how to fight. She's learning how to like handle her dreams. So she kind of like takes power, but unfortunately she's fighting Freddy Krueger. I mean, that'll help you if you're just having a regular dream about your weird incest dad. But when your incest dad is Freddy Krueger, you're going to need a little bit more help. Yeah. I like that she does the classic burning herself to wake up.
So good.
Why does Freddy just never turn that stuff off?
I have no idea. He can do anything, right?
Yeah, he can do anything.
Yeah.
Just what are the limits of his dream powers?
The dream demons have given him extra powers also, so he is really... he should have been able to turn that ability off.
Is it one of those things where like he is insane, so he's not thinking realistically?
Maybe.
He probably would be way more successful if he just thought for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, we might have to suspend our disbelief.
I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have hot stuff around where they could wake themselves up. But yeah, so she goes into the real world. I like that she kung fu'd him. And he does the whole kung fu this bitch. Yeah. That's a good bitch.
It's a good bitch.
I don't know if he did a bitch earlier.
I don't think so. I think that's the first
I
bitch
think
of the
they
movie.
saved it for that one, and good.
Yeah,
good.
A good choice.
They showed restraint, and that bitch was way better. So yeah, Yaphet Kotto ends up running into Freddy. Did Freddy mean for this to happen?
I have no idea.
Because Freddy doesn't, he can, but he usually doesn't go after adults. But I think because Yaphet Kotto is like a dream guy, maybe Yaphet Kotto wandered into Freddy's dream realm.
I mean, I guess.
That makes the most sense. Like Freddy, this doesn't seem like someone Freddy would seek out.
Would target.
Or maybe he would want to kill him because he does know so much about dreams. It's like, oh fuck, this guy could probably help these broads. Let me out.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of him. But yeah, I do like that Freddy like just brags about his whole like, well, they tried this, and like again the cutting off the fingers. When I was a kid, I was like, he does it in the first film, but I like it's a simple effect where like the prop hand goes down and then he comes back and he's like, but I just keep coming back.
It's so good.
And he mentions the Dream People here.
Exactly.
Yeah. They do the typical plan of bringing Freddy into the real world to kill him, which I want to point out has never worked, but apparently it'll work this time. Although they didn't really like fuck him up a lot in the first film. She ended up doing the whole like, I don't fear you anymore, and he disappeared.
Yeah.
And then the studio tacked on that ending, which Wes Craven didn't like because they wanted the sequel beta. But anyway, it's going to work this time.
Magically.
We're going to bring him into the real world and we're going to kill him until he is dead. But before they get in this, they got to go. He goes like, hey, you got to wear these special 3D glasses. And we forgot to mention the last act of this film is in 3D. I've never watched it in 3D.
Me either.
I know. And now I feel really bad because when I did the last episode, I realized I shot it at my friend Movie Dumpster's movie dungeon, and they had the Freddy's Dead 3D glasses. And I said to myself, I have to borrow those for my Freddy's Dead review. And then I was there 2 days ago. Do you see the 3D glasses anywhere?
I do not see any 3D glasses.
Because I'm a fucking idiot and I forgot to get the 3D glasses. Now I have other 3D glasses. I have the My Bloody Valentine 3D glasses, and I don't know where they are. So I really fucked up the whole 3D thing. I have like Man of Steel 3D glasses, but those are the real D. They don't work.
Yeah.
They don't work as well. You need the red and blue.
You need the red and blues.
By the way, this is the stupidest thing. Like, this is clearly just to let the audience know when it's 3D. I don't know why they felt the need to do 3D.
Yeah.
It wasn't trendy at the time.
I do see one of the criticisms that people give for this movie is that it was a money grab.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, they're already doing... That's the thing. It's too many gimmicks. You can't do this is his final thing and also it's in 3D.
Yeah.
You can do it now because everything's in 3D. But at that time, it felt like two gimmicks in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 3D, it's only, the last 10 minutes or so?
It's from the moment she puts the glasses on.
To the moment she takes them off. Which, there's plenty of things that would have been cool mid-film in 3D. And it goes a little ham on the 3D in the last bit, which, I mean, that's the tradition. Yeah. But especially because I don't know that is it released anywhere on 3D?
Oh, I'm sure there's like a Blu-ray option for it. Because I think I don't have a 3D TV anymore. But I do have like the PlayStation VR can play 3D stuff if you wear the goggles. But yeah, because I know Jaws 3D, they have the 3D option finally. I want to check that out. I don't know if my Friday the 13th 3D has the option. I know they sold a DVD with the red and blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you might be able to get it now. I personally have never seen it in 3D though. But I remember like as a kid not realized, like I knew what 3D glasses were, but I didn't realize the movie was supposed to be in 3D. So when she's like in 2D, this
does not function.
Also, her looking at her hand, it's like, well, yeah, it would be 3D.
Yeah.
Like nothing would really look different, I guess.
We do get the 3D demon
Okay.
poster.
What I really like is when she goes into the poster, into his mind. That shit's cool as hell. And then I love the trip through his brain. That is really awesome. You get like the doors closing on her. It seems like a ride. It reminds me, I don't know why it reminded me of like the Back to the Future ride where you like swing around. Rest in peace, that ride. It's Simpsons now.
I know, but I like the Simpsons one.
I did it for the first time recently.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm like, it was all right.
I have a special place in my heart for the Simpsons.
No, I love the Simpsons. I love the Simpsons.
It doesn't matter how bad it sucks. I still love it if it's the Simpsons.
I love the Simpsons. I just wasn't crazy about the ride because I think it did just feel like they just mapped it to Back to the Future. Yeah. Although I was shocked that Apu was in the line. Yeah. I'm like, oh, they still let him hang out in the park? That's awesome. And then I went to the Quickie Mart. Yep. But I'm sorry, Simpsons sidetrack. I was disappointed in the Flaming Moe.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
1, it's non-alcoholic. 2, where's the cough syrup?
Yeah.
I guess maybe you legally can't give out cough syrup.
Maybe robo-tripping had something to do with that. I don't know.
Then what's even the point? What is even the point of having it? There's no point of even having it as an option if it's not going to be the real thing. I was very, very upset about that.
I think you're right.
But Simpsons Land is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get to actually see Freddy's origin outside of the stuff with his mom. It actually is weird Amanda Kruger's nowhere in this.
Yes.
Yeah, because you figured, yeah, why isn't she in this?
It's very bizarre.
Because you figure she raised him for a little bit, right?
Maybe it was just one of those things where it was just too much at this point because
Or
let's be honest,
she was so big in the last one. I feel like, all right, you know what? Amanda's away.
Yeah.
Amanda, we don't need to see that anymore.
yeah.
But yeah, it's weird that she doesn't even have like an appearance or a mention in the final film that dips into his origin. Not that we needed to see like what happened again. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see something. But yeah, we see that as a kid, he like hammered gerbils in the classroom.
He's evil.
He is pretty evil. Or is he a victim of circumstance? I mean, his dad was a crazy person.
It's true.
Maybe the kids teasing him didn't help, saying he's the son of 100 maniacs.
I don't think that helped. And again, that kind of leads into the bullying subplot, so we get a little bit of that there.
Yeah, where it's like, is it nature versus nurture? Yeah. Like, I feel like maybe it's both.
Yeah.
It's like, well, your dad was a crazy person. I know they say 100 maniacs, but I think it's just
it's
one.
Probably
obviously it's
one.
just one guy because that's how biology works. I don't think the sperm mixes into one.
So.
No, that's not how that works.
No.
Also, we brought that up in the last one, like 100 maniacs. I'm sure not all of them took a turn. I'm sure there was one that like was too crazy to even do anything.
Is it in the fifth one that they count and they're like 98,
yeah,
99?
in the flashback, yeah.
That's hilarious though. It does not need to be exactly 100 for that gag to work.
Yeah.
Like,
but then we see him as a teenager and he's getting beat up by Alice Cooper. But you realize that like now he likes pain and he's going to use it on other people. And it's like, man, Alice Cooper shouldn't have hit him so much.
no.
Did Alice Cooper do a song for this one?
He did not, but I think he did the song for
Yeah, he's back.
Friday.
He's the man behind.
6 also, right? Also the 6th installment.
Yeah, which has a great music video. He should have did one for this.
He should have. I heard that the only reason that he actually was in this movie is because everybody was asking him to come and be in the horror series, but they all wanted him to do it in makeup.
Oh, and he doesn't get to be.
And so he's not in makeup.
Yeah, he's just himself.
He's just himself, and that was why he agreed to do this one.
The best horror movie he's in,
What?
John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
I cannot disagree with you at all
He's
there.
the lead bum, the lead brainwashed bum outside the church. And he's good in that. Obviously, his best movie is Wayne's World, where he's very, very knowledgeable about Wisconsin or whatever.
He's just wonderful. Big Alice Cooper fan.
Yeah, I never think to just like listen to his music casually. Like whenever I hear it or see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I like Alice Cooper.
Yeah, he's great.
I forget he exists.
He's very innovative.
Until he shows up and I'm like, oh, Alice Cooper's there. Yeah. Is he still around what's he doing these days?
Yeah, I think he was just recently on tour.
Huh.
Maybe.
I should see him when he comes to town.
He's old. He's very old.
Never mind. I'm not going to see him when he comes to town.
Yeah.
And then we see him being burned alive, which again is different than the TV show. But as I established, that's a different continuity. So as he was just waiting to be burnt, I guess, and he's wearing his trench coat, which comes back in the next one. But yeah, in his Christmas sweater. The Christmas sweater never made sense to me. I always wanted like his origin to be like he was at the Christmas party when people found out or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all lighting him on fire. And then the dream demons show up and they're like, hey, buddy, want to work for us?
They're like, hey, buddy.
Yeah. Ooh, hey.
We know what you want.
I want it all!
Oh, shit. Usually when I talk about a 3D movie, I set up my 3D VR camera and I totally forgot to do it.
Dang it all.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, I do have the Jaws 3D segment on Patreon right now. I feel really bad. I always mean to do that. Anyway, they give him the job. I like that he refers to it as a job. He's like, they're the ones that gave me this job. It's like, you consider this work?
It's a responsibility.
I shouldn't be making fun of anyone's job. I talk about fucking Freddy Krueger movies on the internet. I love when people are like afraid to ask me what I do now, or they're like afraid. They always want to ask, like, is it like, do you make money and stuff? And I always tell them like, it's a joke job, but it pays well.
Yeah.
Thanks to viewers like you. Do not skip any of the ads. Anyway, I'm really nice to my fans. She finally goes to her one memory of being in the room, the murder room, and the dad's like, don't tell anyone. She's like, I won't. And it turns out she fucking ran her mouth. Fuck, these kids ain't loyal. These kids ain't loyal, Cayley.
They did not get a job assigned to them from Dream Demons. That's the problem. Where is the incentive?
How did she forget all of this?
I have no idea.
I feel like she's old enough to remember this shit happening.
I'm pretty sure that you as a kid, if you witness something traumatic, like...
At that age, I feel like you should be able to remember it.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do to repress those memories.
Yeah.
Because there was like a trial. She had to talk to cops. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
A 1-year-old maybe, but like a 3 or 4-year-old is like, nah, you know what you're doing.
Yep.
But yeah, she ratted poor Freddy out. And that's what undid him. So yeah, she's able to bring him into the real world. But he's hiding. And I like that the 3D glasses don't come back yet. So you know to keep your 3D glasses on. So they're like, I know what we're going to do. We're going to the armory where the cops never pick up the weapons. How convenient. Yeah, and then she gets locked in there with him somehow. Yeah. And there's this constant struggle to get the door open or get the fence open.
Yeah, so Yaphet Kotto and Tracy are on one side of the door, and then Maggie or Catherine and Kruger are on the other side.
Yes. And then she ends up like having to fight him herself. She gets I do like that he tries to like plead to her at first. He's like in his regular face. And he's like, it was the kids. They bullied me. I'm so sorry. But then he tries to kill her. It doesn't work. I like that she knocks the glove off.
I think that the last scene is a really well done scene.
Yeah.
I think that it's an interesting way of playing with the idea that has been thrown in our faces the entire movie of, okay, this is a daddy issues movie.
Yeah.
And now we're in the ultimate daddy issues scene.
Yes. And I like her. She's like, I remember when we used to hold hands. And then she like breaks his hand.
I love that effect.
Yeah. And he's like, I forgot how much being human sucks. I'm like, well, I'm human. My hand wouldn't snap like that. So I feel like you're still something else. Which that's the thing. It's like, okay, when he's in the human world, how much of his powers can he use? Technically, if he's in the human world, shouldn't he be like, I'm in so much pain because I was a burn victim?
Yeah. He never can move. He's actually just in bed the whole time.
Here's a question. Why does he always look like a recovering burn addict when he died being burnt?
That has been something that I have always wondered about his general makeup. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love it. But it makes no sense.
Like he would be black and crispy, right? If he has to look like how he died.
Yeah.
Maybe he lived for a little bit longer. And then another parent was like, he's still alive.
Dang it all.
Gonna unplug his IV. Like Freddy, like in the burn ward, someone just throws him down the steps, and that's how he died. But yeah, they start throwing her again. I love how over the top it is. Like she stabs him with the knife, and then they start throwing ninja stars, and she's like ninja throwing everything.
I'm pretty sure that they use the same shot twice.
They probably did.
Like
they probably did.
She's like throwing a knife, and then they do exactly the same. Her throwing a knife, and I'm like, you couldn't have at least separated them with one throw.
Yeah.
Like,
but I like that she has her like Luke Skywalker moment where she might turn to the dark side. Not to be confused with those other famous Luke Skywalker moments, like when he drank milk out of that cow tit. Those are the two most memorable things Luke Skywalker ever did, if you ask me.
It's true.
He almost turned the dark side, drank milk out of a cow tit. He blew up a Death Star. And then, I don't know, he cried in the rain.
Yeah.
Remember Last Jedi? Anyway.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
Look, I like what they were trying to do.
I agree.
Just didn't think it worked that well.
Didn't
think it worked that well.
It wasn't a great success.
Better than The Machine, though.
Well, anything's better than The Machine.
Go back and watch The Machine review. It's fucking awful. Anyway, that's how you kill Freddy. You bring him in the real world. You're like, hey, you have to watch Bert Kreischer. Just watch hours of Bert Kreischer. Freddy's gonna be like, fucking kill me. So yeah, she almost puts the glove on. Well, she does put the glove on, but then she uses it on him. And then finally the pipe bomb, Chekhov's pipe bomb, finally comes back. And she shoves it in him, and she's like, Happy Father's Day. Was it Father's Day? It would be cool if it was actually Father's Day.
So I meant to look up the release date of this. I was like, please let it be Father's Day. Please let it be Father's Day. But I did not look it up, so I have no idea.
Shit.
I feel like this has to be the new movie that everybody watches on Father's Day, right?
again, okay, so like the how Nightmare 2 has had a cult following because all the LGBT stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how sorry to stereotype. I don't know how like women haven't really been drawn to this one for all the daddy issues stuff.
There's so much.
By the way, forgive your fathers, ladies. Forgive your fathers.
It's very important.
It's a very I try to tell my one co-host Crystal, she's really got to forgive her father. She refuses to do it.
If you don't forgive your father, you will end up in Freddy's stead.
But I'm wondering, like, okay, because it's directed by a woman.
Yeah.
It's about daddy issues and overcoming them. Like, this should be a cult film at some point.
I think that it will be.
Yeah. I feel like maybe because
it's the first film in the series that's directed by a woman.
Yeah.
And I think that she does a good job. And again, I kind of think that she uses the psychology over the horror, which is also...
It's actually the only one of the big slashers I could think of that had a female director at some point. Because I don't think Texas Chainsaw has, Halloween hasn't, Friday the 13th hasn't.
I think that you're right.
Yeah, it's the only one.
That's pretty impressive.
So we're probably being called woke in the comments right now. But no, it's weird that
woke.
like they haven't really gravitated toward this. This feels like it's ripe for after 2. This feels like the next one in line for people to go back and reevaluate. Like, oh wow, there's a lot we can relate to in this. I just think it's a fun ass movie.
Yeah,
to be honest. But yeah, he blows up 3 times. All right, that effect at the end, it's a little, I know it's just for the 3D, but that one is a little ridiculous where he's like, his mouth opens up and another mouth comes out.
Well, it's the 3 demons.
Yeah, that's right. And I love that they are floating around.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way,
they
not
get
even
released into the world.
They're not even upset. They're like, ha, let's find some other fucker.
Yeah. Now we got to find the second most evil guy in the world.
Or are they just going to bring him back again? Because they always figure out reasons to kill Freddy. And he mentions, like, yeah, they just keep bringing me back. I guess they like him that much.
They love him.
They love him.
That's the best parental relationship that we have in the film. Somebody finally doesn't have daddy issues.
The dream demons love their son, Freddy. But yeah, he blows up. His last line on Earth is kids. It's like, okay, you had a kid for like 4 years. And you've been killing all the other ones. You're not really knowledgeable about kids, all right? Also, didn't they say he was like a janitor or something? He had a really nice house.
Yeah. I mean, the blue collar days. Talking about The Simpsons.
I know. That was the worst part, like when I binged Married with Children.
Yeah.
And it's like he's supposed to be dirt poor. I'm like, he owns a house that I will never be able to afford.
With 2 bathrooms and
2 bathrooms, a basement, backyard. And I'm like, I will never be able to
garage.
afford that. Yeah. And they're always like, look how poor he is. It's like,
yeah, he's never poor in that show.
I know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, then the movie ends. The glasses come off.
Yes.
To let you know you can take your glasses off, and then it's again awkward line delivery where she's like, "Freddy's dead." Okay, that was it's weird, right? I feel like I'm bullying her.
It's a little anticlimactic.
Yeah. I would have just edited at the explosion, to be honest, and just have everyone high five. Instead, it's just that whole like, Freddy's dead.
Of course he is. We did that.
Oh, Yaphet Kotto turns into the Hulk for a second. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I don't think. So when he pulls the door.
He's trying to pull the door, and then finally he like lifts it off the hinges. I'm like, what the fuck?
At the perfect time.
At the perfect time.
It's
Not
great.
earlier when he could have helped,
Yeah.
but when the bomb is about to go off. Which again, if I was her, I would have been like, oh, I'll light this when you get the door off the hinges. I'll wait. He's pinned to the wall. He's not going anywhere. So yeah, then it ends with a beautiful slideshow or like a little vertical presentation of all Freddy's best hits.
Montage.
Including ones from this film. And I love that it literally ends with the one last shot of him and it just goes, rest in peace. And I think it's great.
I do too.
I think it's fun. I actually want to get the one poster they did. There's a few posters of it. There's that one right there that most people know. But I love the poster they did where it's like the hat on top of the sweater and the claws.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh, that's cool. Where it's like, this is his final hurrah. And yeah, it's a fun time. Like I said, the father or just parents in general, because the one was a mom. It's got a good theme there. Whereas the last one was like the fear of pregnancy. It didn't really work.
No.
it didn't really work that well. This one works a little bit better with what it's trying to convey. It would be nice to see a longer version with some of those deleted scenes, which I will be checking out. But yeah, overall, it's just fun. Why don't people like this? I don't understand.
I have no idea.
Because it's really not as bad as 5.
It's definitely not as bad as 5.
No.
It's not even close to as bad as 5.
Yeah.
It's fun. It makes sense in the universe somewhat.
Yeah.
Maybe people are just bitter that Freddy is dead. I guess talking about that, one of the things that it kind of misses is that I think all the previous movies end with a cliffhanger. And so when you're talking about a nightmare movie, maybe one of the things that makes it a nightmare movie is that it has to end in a cliffhanger.
Yes.
And so, in that sense, is it a nightmare movie? Does it divert too far from the stereotype? Is that why people don't like it?
Look, I can give you that, but the movie is called Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
Yeah. We knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it honestly would have been annoying if they did a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And I know people are real conflicted on Halloween Ends. I don't know how you felt about that film. Yeah. But one of the things I appreciate is that they fucking kill Michael Myers until he is dead. To the point where, like, if you wanted to reboot it, you have to reboot it because there is no chance he's coming back. I'm like, all right, at least they did that. Not like Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Or no, Friday the 13th Part 4, where it's like the kid will be the killer next time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that didn't happen. Yeah. They tried to end that twice and it didn't happen. Although was this intended as I know they said it was the end, but again, Freddy vs. Jason was on their mind because they put that teaser at the end of Jason Goes to Hell with the claw coming out. So I don't know. I think it works as a finale. There's cool backstory to his lore there with the demons flying around. Overall, I think it's solid. I think it's, again, after 2, it's my favorite sequel. Some days I might even like it more than 2, to be honest. Give it another watch. Don't believe assholes who are just like, that movie sucked because it was like one of the later ones. I'm like, no, but because it was the last one, they tried harder. Yeah. Please check it out. Cayley, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Once Over with Cayley, which is Cayley. I'm also on Instagram, and I love connecting with people and talking about movies. So
yes, it's a great channel. You actually covered, it's being blocked by Freddy right now, Evolution.
I sure did.
Which is a great movie. When I saw that, I'm like, shit, I haven't reviewed that. Fuck, someone beat me to it.
I love that movie, and I would love to see your review of it. So.
That's true. You also reviewed Little Shop of Horrors, which was a lot of fun, which we also covered with Jess from Now the Creep Off.
It's exciting. Universes colliding. It's like a dream within a dream. I
still make fun of her because it's funny. Jess was in 2 of these. She was in the first Nightmare review and the third one. But now I joke because it's like the day I announced everything was changing was the day she first showed up on the Creep Off. Like, she couldn't wait. She couldn't fucking wait, could she? Yeah, you have a great channel over there. I like a lot of stuff. If you guys listen to my commentary track with Carl for One Too Many, Cayley has a review with Carl for One Too Many. Part of me was like, should I review that at some point? I'm like, I just don't want to watch it again, to be honest.
It was the worst movie watches of my life.
Yes, it was.
I blame Carl for this. I want you to know.
Really do, too. I didn't know the movie exists. So Stutter and John, who's a terrible father and a horror, even worse comedian, he tried to make a movie in like 2007, 2008. Yeah. And even though he had the power of like big comedians and the Tonight Show behind him, no one fucking saw it because it was garbage. So yeah, just check that out. Check out the review. It's a rough one. It's a rough one. But yes, that was it. Like I said, we're skipping New Nightmare. I will do a commentary track, and this October has a Friday the 13th, Cayley.
Ooh.
And I've already reviewed the first 10 Friday the 13th films. And now I've just finished Nightmare on Elm Street. So Friday the 13th of October, we will finally be doing Freddy versus Jason. Woohoo. And actually, when we're filming this in August, yes, I filmed with a girl during Boys Month, okay? But I didn't release it during Boys Month, so it's fine. This week was the 20th anniversary of Freddy vs. Jason, so I'm excited to dive into that one. That is going to be a fun time. And then afterwards, I got to do the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which I'm less excited
less enthusiastic. words.
Yeah, less
Less enthusiastic about, or that's where I was going with that.
Anyway, that is it from us. Like, share, subscribe, buy some merch, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.
Talking about tapes.